Hey guys, and welcome back to more Magic the Gathering lore, as we continue these 13 Nights of Magic, celebrating the macabre and morbid side of MTG. I thought I'd take this video in a slightly different direction. Rather than talk about a single character from the story, I want to examine an entire race that just really creeps me out. Now, the lore here is a little shallow, so I thought it would be interesting to examine this creature type through the numerous cards which feature it. In a sense, giving you the race's history in terms of lore and the actual game. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this little lesson on the fairly unknown Dothy. The Dothy are a horrifying race aligned exclusively with black mana. Much of their physical appearance is marred by jagged spikes and deep embedded grooves. While some may wear armor, most merely cover themselves in tattered robes or wear nothing at all. While other races across the multiverse take pride in their diversity among individuals, the Dothy all seem to have similar physical traits, including jet black skin. While they certainly look monstrous, they're technically a humanoid race. Originating from the plane of Dominaria, these living, breathing representations of insanity and horror have a culture all their own. We just don't know much about it. What we do know about their lives on Dominaria comes from some of their most hated enemies, the Soltari, a race of white-aligned, spirit-like creatures. Obviously, the symbolism here is pretty clear. The shadow versus the light. These two races were bound to hate one another. Through some flavor text, we can grasp just how much these two groups despised one another, and the true behavior of the Dothy. On Dothi Mercenary from Tempest, a Soltari emissary suggests that the Dothy find no issue with committing murder, believing they can dignify the act by paying for it. In a piece of Soltarian literature known as the Tales of Life, it describes the Dothy as beings who crawl and live in the shadows. As read on Dauthi Marauder, the Dothy came from beneath the ruins one night, and the darkness cast them in the best possible light. And finally, we return to the same Soltari emissary, who, on Dothy Slayer, says this race has a knife for every soul. Obviously, the Soltari aren't very keen on the Dothy, but probably for good reason. This race of twisted souls seemed to terrorize all of Dominaria, growing their ranks through fear and slavery as seen in Dothy Embrace. Their cruelty had no limit, and it seemed they would never stop their campaign against the spiritual Soltari. Perhaps they would have been driven to extinction, but luckily, fate had other plans. As their war continued on Dominaria, an even greater war approached, the Phyrexians. On the artificial world of Wrath, the Phyrexian forces were preparing to start an invasion like none had ever seen before. They planned to plane shift Wrath on top of Dominaria, attacking the plane directly with their full host. This type of assault was unprecedented, and it came to no surprise that there were some unforeseen consequences. As the Wrathy overlay engulfed Dominaria and the two planes became one, it created a buffer zone known as the Shadows. This extraplanar space between worlds was full of nothing, save for darkness, a maze of shadow and strife, a world between worlds, allowing all stuck here to observe the events taking place on both Dominaria and Wrath, but preventing them from reaching either. It was a curse, lost forever in darkness, only to glimpse at your former world, but never again able to return. During the plane shift, the reaction of the shadows being informed caused a great number of peoples to be abducted into this harsh new reality, namely, those of the Dothy and Soltari. While the Soltari turned to their religion for guidance and hope, the Dothy slowly grew maddened by their situation, not like they weren't insane enough already. This stark difference in dealing with the shadows only caused a greater wedge between these two groups to form. The Dothy would hunt and kill those of the light more viciously than ever before. If they couldn't escape this place, then they would purge it. This ideology was summed up perfectly in the card Dothy Cutthroat. In their twisted logic, to empty the Shadow World is to escape it. After the plane shift of Wrath into parts of Dominaria, you can see that these new shadow creatures gained a new ability, aptly named Shadow. As a race of the shadow, it became a part of their very nature. Their bodies were incorporeal, leaving them as shapeless as the darkness that surrounded them. The Dothi were introduced back in the Tempest block, the third block of MTG, in October 1997. Other Dothi would be released in the next two sets, Stronghold and Exodus. Back then, this race didn't have a specific creature type printed on their cards, but that was later changed in 2006 with the release of Time Spiral. As a special time-shifted card, Dothi Slayer was properly given the sub-creature type Dothi. Later, thanks to the Grand Creature type update in 2007, all previous Dothi officially got a similar treatment. Two key cards seem to stand out when compared to the rest of this race, one of which is Dothi Jackal from Exodus. Now this is a summoned hound, or Dothi Hound, meaning this race isn't limited to just humanoids. Although the Saltari don't really see it that way, saying that all Dothi are jackals regardless of breed. Ouch. The second standout card is Shadow Rider from Weatherlight. Now this is a strange case because the card's been debated as being a Dothi, even being mentioned that it was an original Dothi from Dominaria. Even its flavor text seemed to hint at this origin. In its world of complete darkness, it has no shadows to fear. Despite this information, during the Grand Creature type update, it was classified as a zombie, much to the displeasure of some fans who believed it would have at least been classified as a knight. Their grievance would meet a somewhat satisfactory ending when the card's official type was changed back to Knight in the update brought with Oath of the Gatewatch. And that's it for this episode of 13 Nights of Magic. And now you can enter for your chance to win a copy of, well, something you didn't expect. Smuggler's Copter. Yeah, it doesn't fit, but hey, I'm sure you guys won't complain. All you had to do is be a subscriber to the channel, leave a comment on this video, and if you're feeling really nice, share it with your friends. If you enjoyed the video, please do everything just mentioned. It goes a long way in supporting my content. You can also check out my Patreon page and follow me on Twitter and Facebook to stay up to date on all my latest videos. You can find links to all of those in the description below. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.